Hold on. Okay. So, yeah, I forgot what I was saying.
Just about the similarities of
Oh,
people.
yeah. There's usually a history of trauma. And I've probably talked to a couple hundred people. It seems like more and more people reach out. And then it was like the perfect storm of events that led to them being sick too. And the same thing happened to me. You're exhausted with me, especially was physically. I was doing absolutely everything. I was volunteering at my daughter's school, getting up at 4:30 in the morning, getting everything ready. I had my Bible time. I had everything regimented. I was extremely type A, perfectionist, all that stuff. And then I was pleasing everybody. And you can't please absolutely everybody. And I was not sleeping right. I wasn't eating right. I just was exhausted. I mean, I would volunteer at her school all day long. I had stopped teaching, went and because I used to be a teacher, volunteered at her school. And I would park in the parking lot and get out. And if her teacher didn't need me, I'd go around the school and I'd say, I'll help you. And so I'd stay. And then when school was over, I was the Girl Scout leader. And then I would take her home. I'd have a complete dinner made for my family with dessert, all homemade. And my grandma was living with us at the time. And I was taking care of her, getting her to all her doctor's appointments too, the days I didn't go to school. And then I'd feed my family dinner, get dishes done. And then I'd go to meetings for her school in the evening. And I wouldn't get home till 11 o'clock or later. And then I'd get up at 4:30 and do the whole thing again. I was at every volunteer position I had. I was the lunch lady, as long as I didn't have to wear the net. I said, I'll do it, but I'm not wearing a hairnet. And I was the library mom, the room mom since she was 3 years old. I mean, nobody asked this of me. I just did it. But I have a history of abuse in my childhood. So I know exactly why I did it. Everybody would love me and give me all this approval. And I needed that at the time. And it's so liberating now to be healed and not need that anymore. So everybody was removed, which was terrifying for me because during the course of me being sick, I was sick, like the first symptoms, probably 14 years. But when I literally couldn't lift my head off the pillow, it was probably from that point on 10 years of fighting for my life. And I had Lyme, and it just took me out. It took both legs out from underneath me. So I was physically exhausted. And then we had some family issues. And I realized that I had a history of sexual abuse and was going through that with a therapist at the time. So it was the perfect storm, like I said before, of physical exhaustion and then emotional upheaval. And then that led in everybody I've talked to, when you dig a little bit deeper or they offer information, I've noticed that. And it's very interesting to me. And I've noticed that a lot of people that I've talked to are also empaths, you know.
Yes.
So, and I'm sure you've seen the same thing. So,
Yes. And I wonder, do you think the empath becomes the person who takes on too much feeling and trauma, and so they become sick, or they become the empath out of the situation of being sick and becoming more in touch with themselves and just like learning how to feel? I think it probably makes sense that it goes the other way around.
Yeah, I think I started out the first way and ended up the second way. I mean, it's like I'm still extremely empathetic to people. I have a lot of compassion, but I don't extend myself anymore. During the 10 years I was really sick, I lost every friend I had. Well, I don't think I even realized at the time, because when you're fighting for your life, I remember looking at the clock and thinking, if I can make it 5 more minutes. Sometimes it was minute to minute. It was so confusing for me because I normally had everything like very organized and I was in charge. And then to have, well, I'll go to the doctor and fix it. But I didn't know what doctor to go to. I saw 62 doctors and specialists, empaths within the 10 years. 2 helped me.
Wow.
It was brutal. I was going to gastroenterologists because I had stomach issues. Then I was going to neurologists. I was going to a rheumatologist. I didn't know. And then they were all like, you can't have all these things. I was misdiagnosed. I was told I had lupus, I had MS, I had rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, which everybody I've talked to says that that's what they, said, treated horrendously by doctors. So incredibly disrespected. I heard it's all in your head. You're too pretty. You must need attention. I started bringing my husband with me, went to see one neurologist, and my joints, my knees were like this big. They were like grapefruits. It was horrible. I had trouble walking, and the neurologist checked my gait. So he said, walk across the room to where your husband's sitting. And I did. And then he said, now lean over to your husband. So I said, okay. So I leaned over. I was crying because I was in so much pain. And then he said, now tell your husband you'll do whatever he says. And he started laughing. And I was like, what? I was so like, I couldn't even believe what he was saying to me. It was horrible. I got my purse and walked out. I left my husband sitting there. I don't even know how I walked out because I was in so much pain. And then he told him off. Then I came home, I wrote a letter to the medical association, everything. And I'd like to say that was the only time stuff like that happened, but it was terrible when you feel your worst. So I'm fighting for my life every day, trying to make it minute to minute when it's this head to toe, just whirlwind of the worst suffering. Now, I have a history of knowing what pain is. I've been through a lot. I've had 3 ectopic pregnancies. I had cervical cancer. I had ovarian cancer. I've had a brain tumor and brain surgery. I've had 18 surgeries for different things and nothing. You say cancer and people came running with casseroles. I said Lyme disease and it was crickets. People didn't know what to say, or they'd say, oh, well, my uncle's cousin's brother had Lyme and he just took like 1 dose of antibiotics and he was fine. So then they'd like roll their eyes at me. And I think the thing that broke my heart, one of the things was I had this group of 6 girlfriends that I was very close to, and we'd do a girls' night out. Well, I started to feel bad. So, but they said, please come to one more. I was like, okay, I'll try. And so I couldn't even drive. So my husband dropped me off. They did an intervention. They said, we think it's all in your head. You need to go to a psychiatrist because nobody can have all these symptoms. And my heart, I could hear it crack. It broke me. And I just realized, oh my gosh. So then I fought and fought and fought and fought. I had seizures, didn't drive for 7 years. It was mind blowing. I couldn't stand in the shower. My husband had to hold me up. The Epsom salt baths, just crazy stuff, crazy. And then when I finally got better, I realized there's nobody. Everybody was gone. And I had such a busy social life before. It was like I was so busy, I was turning dates away, and then everybody was gone. And the people that I least expected to reach out and be kind to me were so wonderful. They'd send me little Bible books or little prayer cards or little say, I'm thinking of you, and it was just, I have learned so much. And I'm so good for what I've learned now. I mean, I found out, those weren't really my friends, and that's good. And I've learned to appreciate my alone time. It's just I'm where you are, I think, where you realize the blessings and the peace that come with being well and knowing yourself and loving yourself completely. And, if I have the rough days like everybody else does, I just have to talk myself into positivity. I meditate, I pray, I do yoga. And I know you do too. I lift weights, I can do that. And when it's hard, the days that it's hard, I'm saying I'm kicking Lyme's butt, nothing's going to get me. And, everybody's like, oh my God, she's so positive. It's like before she's so sick. And now it's like, she's so positive. It's between me and God and the universe. And, I don't care. I let things roll. That would have shattered me before. If anybody didn't like me, I would be like, oh my God, trying to please people. But now it's like, there's this inner peace. And I've been through other really bad stuff, like I told you. And I don't know, no human being should ever have to suffer the way I remember. I know one of your questions was, when did you realize? I don't remember which question it was, but I remember being so violently sick. And then I remember being in the Epsom salt baths with the hot water. And then I was herxing. It was terrible. And I remember screaming out to God. This was my defining moment. I remember saying, please take me or heal me. I can't hold on anymore. And I never said, through the whole 14 years, I never said, why me? It never occurred to me. So when I screamed that out, it's not like poof, you're better. It was like the next day I had the tiniest little mustard seed of hope. And I have an infrared sauna. So I would get into the sauna because I didn't sweat anymore. And I would sit there, and I didn't sweat till like 20 minutes in. So I would be in there. And why I was in there, I would start with the top of my head. and I would talk health and wellness into my body all the way to my toes. And then I do it again and again and again. I willed myself back. And I know it sounds crazy. I watched the Heal documentary and everything else, but you know what? You can't get well without positivity. And I had to believe that I just did. It was just like slowly it got stronger and stronger and stronger. And I prayed so hard. And I thank God before I was even healed. Thank you. I'm healthy and strong, even when I wasn't. That was the hardest challenge in my life, believing when nothing was changing.
Yes.
But I kept believing and I kept believing and I kept believing. And it was really crazy. So let me tell you what happened. This is such a weird thing. And it's trusting God and everything else because so I had a friend that had Lyme and she lived in Georgia. I known her since high school. She used to date my brother and high school is a long time ago for me. Okay. It's like 45 years. So we always stayed in touch. She knew I was sick and I had all these symptoms. And so she called me one day and said, I think you have Lyme disease. I said, I don't have that. I didn't even know what it was. I said, I don't know. I don't have that. And so she was like, I think you do. So she sent me the Horowitz questionnaire. And I sat down, I'm just doing the whole thing. And I don't remember exactly what the numbers were, but I didn't look at the end and tallied everything up. And it said, like, if you have a 34 or over, there's a good chance you have Lyme disease or whatever his number was. And I was like, oh my God, I had 120 something. I don't remember it, but it was off the charts. So I was like, whoa. So of course I tried to make a phone call to Horowitz's office to make an appointment because I thought, well, he'll see me. We'll go to New York. Yeah. No. He wasn't even taking new appointments. And then she said, when he does, it's a 3-year waiting list. And I was like, I'm going to be dead in 3 years. There's no way. So I found a little clinic near my house in Oldsmar, Florida, which is supposed to be well known for Lyme. And the doctor said he was going to make me better. And all I got was vitamin C infusions. I had no idea. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to do. I was so sick. My husband didn't know. It cost $6,000 a week at this clinic. And I was there almost a year. It was, all he did was take my money. It was awful. I met incredible people that I'm still in touch with today, but none of us got better. And then he was held responsible for killing somebody and he's like in litigation right now. So,
oh my. Yeah.
So bad place. And I was so green and I didn't know anything, So then, okay. So I found out I had Lyme. Finally, I had 4 traditional Lyme tests done, all negative. Well, now we know why, because when I got smarter, I know they don't test for 2 bands. So I did the IGeneX test and through my family doctor and it came back positive. So I was like, great, what do I do now? And even counseling people now, it's like, you have a tick, how you remove it, what do you do? Bag it. I know where to send it. Tell them what to do. I know how to get a Lyme test to them. How do they get it? Blah, blah, blah. And then to tell them you have to pay out of pocket. And then they're like, where do I go to get better? And it's like, so by the grace of God, again, I get a phone call. It's a friend of mine, another high school friend that lives in Virginia. She had Lyme. Okay. And she said, I know you're really sick. I had it myself years ago. My husband went to medical school with a guy who's an infectious disease doctor. And normally, you know how they are with Lyme. They're like, no way. So, and he was in Fort Lauderdale. I don't know how my husband got me on a plane, but we went and he ended up, his wife had Lyme. That's why. So I had a PICC line put in, IV Rocephin for 10 months. Ruined my gut. Then I pulsed doxy, dapsone, and rifampin for 6 months after that. And then I did biofeedback with something called CyberScan. Have you ever heard of it?
No, biofeedback, yes, but not.
Yeah. CyberScan is real. I don't know how it works. They could tell me it's magic, but you're so sick that you would do anything. What I did was the people I met at that clinic, I called everybody who I knew had improved, even slightly. And then maybe there's 20 people I stayed in touch with. I called every single one and said, what are you doing? What did you do to get better? And the majority of them said, well, I did this biofeedback thing with this company called CyberScan, and here's a practitioner's name. So they gave me the name of this woman. And I called her and she said, yes, I'll take you on. You need to send me a piece of your hair. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And it was like so weird. I don't know how it worked though. I don't know what she did. So then she called me and she said, I analyzed your hair sample. It's Tesla technology and all this stuff. And I was like, okay. And she sent me this stuff. It's called EE water. And you're supposed to take it every day. But she could pull up on her computer and tell when I was having a bad day. And she'd call me and say, are you herxing today? And I'd say, yes. I don't understand how the whole thing worked. I really don't. But between the antibiotics, going through all that, I lost my gallbladder because that's what happens on long-term antibiotics sometime. And then I had to detox in the sauna, just brutal. Diet change. Food was the best medicine for me. Gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, no preservatives, no, food with all that crap in it. I tried to eat just green, just really good, healthy foods. And after the antibiotics, my weight plummeted. I remember I went through a stage where I don't even know. I stopped getting on the scale when it got to 100.
And that happened after you started treatment?
After the antibiotics.
I think the inflammation went out of your body, or
I had leaky gut because my gut was ruined from the antibiotics. So I spent 2 years rebuilding my gut. And then I had just immediately started losing all this weight, and that was frightening. I remember my husband walking in the bathroom and going, oh my God. And we have a 3-way mirror. I caught like a glance of myself. And when someone's really thin and from looking at them front ways, everything stuck out here. You could count ribs here. It was concentration camp skinny. My hips jutted out. My bones were sticking out. And I never really looked at myself like that. I lost all my hair at one point through the whole journey. It was brutal. It was really brutal. And then I would hurt so bad. Sometimes I had the twitches and, jerks, and I had POTS. So when I stood up, I'd pass out. So I had to really take my time getting up. The seizures were bad. I had multiple seizures a day. That was scary. I would only be out like a few minutes. And I have a little Yorkie, and she would be able to tell when I was going to have a seizure. She never left my side. And she would just do this weird thing with her ears and her head. She'd twist it weird. And I knew I was going to have one. So I could sit down or sit on the floor, and it would pass in a few seconds. But it was terrifying to go through that. So through the doctor in Fort Lauderdale and the cyber scan and the detoxing and the talking myself off the edge of the cliff constantly, positive, 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 I refused to let negative in. And I thought, I'm getting better. And it was not, like you said, the healing takes a really long time. I'm still healing.
Yes.
So, it took a really, really long time for me. And something else interesting, I had breast implants. And I don't care who knows this. I put it out there. I don't care if I can help anybody else in the world. I will do whatever I can. I had the first set for 10 years, had them changed out. They were saline, then had silicone put in, telling the doctors telling me it's safe. When I went to every doctor when I was sick, so I had them 24 years together, both of them. So when I first got sick with these symptoms, I asked every single doctor I went to, from the rheumatologist to the neurologist, could it be my breast implants? And they all said, no. So it's bizarre. A friend of mine ended up calling me and saying, are you having trouble with your implants? I said, you know what? I still don't feel good. I'm not healed all the way from the Lyme. I'm still struggling. And she said, do you think it's the implant? She found this group online. I joined the group, and just on a whim, I don't know what possessed me to do this, I put Lyme disease in the search bar, and it came up with all of these names of all of these women. So I had an explant. It cost me $8,600 to get them taken out. No help from anybody. It's like now there's a black box warning supposedly with them. And then I started to heal better after that. So.
Okay.
Well, it's toxin.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And the outside are silicone. So even if you have saline, the outside are silicone. And it was amazing though. I mean, the morning of my surgery, and it was a brutal surgery because they have to scrape everything out. And in order to heal, they have to take the whole casing that they're in. So all the scar tissue, and they call it en bloc. And so they take everything out, but you're really sore. I mean, it took a lot of healing. I had drains in and everything else. And, but I thought I've been through worse. I can do this too. Anything to be better. You will do anything to be better.
For sure.
Yeah. So, and then, but I took pictures, all these women on this breast implant site, they would show pictures of their breasts before and after, but then they would show their eyes. And I was like, that's so weird. Their eyes would be like bloodshot. And even the color of their eyes would be like cloudy. It was so weird. And then they would show their eyes after surgery and they were bright white. And I took pictures of my eyes, and I swear to you, you wouldn't believe, my skin completely cleared out. I had a friend that saw me the first week, just smoothed out. She said, I didn't know you had a facelift. I said, I didn't do anything. I said, all I did was have these toxic things taken out of my body. And it was amazing, just amazing. So, healing is slow. It's not linear. One day it was up, one day it was down. I still have down days. I've learned to appreciate and listen to my body, because before I didn't listen, and I was tired and I felt exhausted, but I kept going, because I had that quest for approval. And, it's like the disease to please. And now I don't have that anymore. I just know to listen. So if I go on a big trip or a big outing, or a vacation, it's like I come back and I know that I'm going to have down days for the first couple of days, and that's okay. So, and if the weather changes, I get achy, but nothing like I had before. And that puts it in perspective right away. I think I can stand, I can get out of bed, I can walk, and I know it sounds so corny, but when you literally can't have control over your body, it's terrifying. And the pain, I just remember crying and just thinking, I don't know if I could do this anymore. I contemplated suicide. I couldn't stand the guilt of the money we spent that got me nowhere. My daughter was 10 years old when I got sick. She was in towards like second year, almost done with college before I got better.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I missed so much, and I was always the room. I'm always involved. So we had a relationship that was very contentious for a while there, because she didn't understand what was going on. And then I wasn't there anymore. And then it just was very scary for her too. I mean, she would see me have these seizures, and that was terrifying. And I felt so guilty. And then I missed a huge chunk of her life. She played competitive soccer in high school, and I couldn't go to the games. I couldn't walk. And especially on grass or sand, because I'd lose my footing. I had neuropathy really bad. I think my first symptoms were insomnia first. All of a sudden I couldn't sleep. And then I was in the pool with her one day. I got out and my legs gave way. The bottom of my feet, I couldn't feel anything, completely numb. My hands were numb. I went and had all those nerve conduction studies done. And they said, and then I had a nerve biopsy, and I had a great neurologist in Tampa. And she said, you have small fiber neuropathy. And I still have issues with that. I still have the numbness and tingling, not all the time, but just sometimes in my hands and my feet and my calves. So.
And did you have Bartonella too, or just Lyme?
Yes, I had Babesia, Bartonella, and ehrlichiosis.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Lions and tigers, bears.
Seriously.
Yeah, I've met very few people that have only had Lyme.
Me too.
Yeah.
Honestly. And I'm curious too. So you also listed that you had quite a few other afflictions health-wise going on. Did that happen before or after the Lyme?
All before.
Okay.
All before.
Wow.
And so I don't know. I mean, that erodes your immune system too. The brain tumor was probably the last thing that was right before. And they were afraid that maybe because it was at the base of my skull, that it was pushing on my nerves, and maybe that was causing the numbness and tingling. So they thought maybe that's what it was. Oh, I also did. So then I come out of everything and I can function a little bit. And I had this horrible anxiety and panic attacks. I tried everything. I did tapping. I did DNRS. I did the neural brain retraining with Annie Hopper. I did everything you could think of to try to get that under control. And then just slowly that went away too. So it's been a long road. So then I come out of everything and no one's there. And the world is really scary. I didn't drive for 7 years. I could barely get around. Landmarks had changed. It was a terrifying place. I thought if I just had one friend to do things with. I lost my best friend of 30 years. She lives 10 minutes from me.
And you still don't have contact with her?
She's reached out 5 or 6 times and said, I love you so much. You're my best friend. I miss you. Let's get together. And then she'd ghost me. And then finally, right before Christmas, we got together and I just said, look, if we need to bury this friendship and put it away, I love it enough to do that. If we need to start all over again, I can do that. If whatever you see, we can do it. She said, I love you. You know, I had introduced her to her husband. She's the godmother of my child. You know, it was like, and then nothing, no results. So it's like I've learned. And then I found texts from her from like 2 years ago that came up and it was the same thing. So I've learned to accept. It's not even worth confronting. Then when I met her, she said, well, we've both been terrible friends at one point or another. And I thought I was dying. I was now, this was not like a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
different.
Yeah, but when I thought it really upset me later on, but I'm not up to getting into anything with anybody. If you don't understand my path or don't judge me till you walk in my shoes, please. I don't know. I've just come full circle. I don't let anyone in my little circle now unless I want them. There are gifts that come with losing everybody. Sure. And then putting people back in. It's like a second chance to be reborn again. And that's really how I feel. I feel like I had another chance. And, it's little things like I'm more present. Before I was running around worrying about everything. I couldn't control anything. Now I don't even try to control anything. I wake up and I say, God, thank you. I'm alive. Wow, for this day, even if I'm creaking and sore in the morning. And I find a bird's egg outside. I'm running to my husband. He's like, what are you, 6? I'm like, yeah. There's so much joy in the smallest things now that I never noticed before. And I'm so grateful. And then, it's funny because my daughter went away to college and she's like, Mom, you're my hero. I love you so much. I miss you. We are best friends now. So, anything is possible, but you have to you have to believe. And I don't know. Then I got a good therapist too, to help me through everything. And, she's Christian. So we started out with be still and know that he is God. Then we were like, be still and know. Then we were like, be still. And then it was just be. And I'm content just being.
Yes. Yeah.
The more control I give up to God, the more I realize that he's got me and that things happen the way they're supposed to,
Yes.
So, there are so many blessings. I'm grateful. And I think just such a huge sense of appreciation to the people that are kind to me for my alone time. It's not like I'm stuck at home. I get to be at home. And I struggled with purpose. I thought, what am I supposed to do now? What do I do? What am I going to do with my life now? And I'm 62. So it's like, it's like, and I'm really careful with this too. I don't say I lost 10 years. I used to say that all the time. I lost 10 years being very chronically ill. Now I've gained so much more than I lost. I can't say I'm happy I went through it. I can tell you that I am happy because I've learned so many things. I am not the same person that went into Lyme disease that came out. And I know that you understand that because you've been there, and just talking to somebody else who understands it is such a blessing. The people I've met through the Lyme community just astound me. They're the strongest to not be judged when you're having a down day, and so just putting good stuff out there. Every time I feel like I'm not making a difference, somebody will text me and say, I needed to hear this today. Thank you so much. Or they'll private message me saying, how did you know what I'm going through? Every day I pray, God, show me who I can help. And every day I'll get a private message to somebody that says, I'm struggling, please help me. Yeah. And it's such a blessing to be able to do that. I don't judge anybody. The person standing next to you that might look like they're fine, you don't know what they're going through. And I didn't judge before, but I didn't really notice before. I was so wrapped up in myself and everything else. So it's just been such an exhausting journey, but one that I am so incredibly grateful for. And I know that's unless you've been there, you don't understand. I couldn't tell that to just anybody because they'd be like, what do you mean? It's like they don't speak the same language.
Yeah. My whole soul speaks what you're
yes.
like. I'm just like, oh God, I totally understand. And I get it. And I'm just so grateful that there's others like you that, get it and we value so much and we appreciate, like, people are like, you're so passionate about this. I'm like, yeah, I lived it. I was there. I totally get it. And I am just so grateful that I'm still here and I'm healthy and I'm whole and that I can help other people and be of service. And that's something I'm maybe not like as openly about my connection with God, but I do ask every day to give me the right words, help me connect with the right people, show me where I need to go, keep teaching me and helping me to expand in your work so I can serve you, you know, and
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we're attracted to each other too. I always knew, even just by looking at you and hearing you or seeing what you were posting, I was like, whoa, it's like you're immediately attracted to that. The woman I met for lunch the other day, to sit there with another person that has suffered what you have suffered. We were crying through this lunch. I'm sure anybody that was around us was like, what the heck is their problem? She has texted me every single day since, you know, that we live in the same city is a miracle in itself. But that we had it was pure joy. I cried the whole way home. She cried the whole way home. Happy tears, just to have somebody else say, I understand.
Yeah. And that is such a deep connection. And that's what, like I've been saying, I go through these interviews, but it's like each of us were like the same, you know, and it's so beautiful to experience that. Those of us that have gotten better and the way that it has morphed us into a completely different being. We're all incredibly grateful for the experience. Like, I hated it when I was living it, and it was a really dark time and like very hard to hold on. Like you were saying, I mean, I was at the end of my rope too. Like, I can't do this anymore, God. Like, I couldn't even go to church because seeing God on the cross was overwhelming to me. Like, I was so angry and upset about how sick I felt, and people just kept telling me there's nothing wrong. And so very much.
And then where do you go for help? It's terrifying. There's all these people out there that say they can help you, or it's hard when people come to me and say, where do I go? What do I do? And you can go on all these associations and run the list of people and, you know, talk to people. And there were no LLMDs near me. So I didn't know what to do. And thank God I had those two friends. I mean, you know, when you say that God takes care of your path, or a higher power takes care of your path, it's true, because I wouldn't have even thought of Lyme disease. I would have thought, and how many people, when they say 500,000 people a year, oh my God, you know, it's quadruple that, because look at the people that probably are misdiagnosed and think, well, I have MS, I have Parkinson's, I have lupus, and they really have Lyme. Yeah. I mean, and all the, look at Chris Christopherson. I mean, Alzheimer's. And he was on death's doorstep, and it was Lyme the whole time. And then when it's neuro Lyme, I could not watch TV. I couldn't remember. I was at my very worst. I couldn't remember how to spell my name. I couldn't write my name. I couldn't read a book, and I loved to read. I loved to craft. I couldn't do craft stuff. There was nothing. I couldn't do anything. And it was, my forgetting things. I felt stupid. I couldn't remember the names for simple things. I remember trying to ask for a fork, and I couldn't think of what it was called. And it scares you, because I thought these things are drilling in my brain. I remember seeing Horowitz in one of the Lyme movies, and he said, when people say it's all in your head, it really is, because they're really like drilling in there. I mean, what a scary thing is Lyme, though. I mean, what other disease can drill and hide and evade and make biofilm around itself? Can make your body, my knees puffed up, huge. I have pictures, and I'm like, it's like my legs came down, and then these huge, it was parasites, just brutal. I remember learning to do home colonics. I bought a colonic system I had at home. You'll do anything, you know, and there's things I'm leaving off too that I know I'm forgetting.
Wow. And that's what I think about sometimes, is like, people ask me how I got better.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there's not really one specific thing. I can give you a list of things like this long, and you pick the ones out of this that resonate with you, that you think are going to work for your body.
I had enough Yeah, supplements and medications and stuff to fill 3 bathtubs to overflowing easily. Easily. You know, those big blue bins that you can get with the lids that stick on at the end of everything. When I realized I didn't need some of the stuff anymore, I filled them and we had 3 full to the top.
That's so much money. And it's like
Oh,
insanity living like that and having your phone, like my phone was always going off with different reminders to take this pill, take this shift of supplement.
my husband got all these pill boxes, and the pill boxes aren't even big enough. So you
Right.
get super pill boxes, and then those weren't even big enough. So then we had 2 pill boxes, and then thank God he was doing my medicine, because I would take it, and I was had so much brain fog that I was like, did I just take my medicine? I couldn't remember if I just took it 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That to lose your mind like that. So now I play word games all the time. I do puzzles. I'm an avid Jeopardy fan. I never miss Jeopardy. I'm like so on top of it now, and to have my memory back is huge. And that's just recently that I feel sharp again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
then
how long have you been healing?
yeah, the antibiotic treatment was 6 years ago. So then another 2 years of healing my gut. Then the panic attacks and the anxiety, and then still. So,
and not to, you know, about leaky gut and also how that creates pathways for anxiety to travel.
Oh, yes.
You've ever heard that?
Oh, and then we had mold in our garage.
Oh,
in
dear.
Florida, black mold. Yeah. So we had our whole house checked. We have the blue light sensors in there that zap anything. We get it checked all the time, just to make sure, because you know how that is with people that have Lyme, and that adds to the anxiety too. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm still healing. I feel like I'm still healing. And then the long-term damage. I mean, I know I've got joint damage, it's hard for me to realize at my point, because I was like 50 when I got sick, and then 60 when I started to get better. So it's like, even before I was 50, so it was like, and I was the only one out of my friends was like, bring it on. I can't wait, and then I got sick, and then it was like, okay, so now I don't know if it's age or if it's old Lyme stuff. So and I'm still eating really well. I'm able now to, at Christmas, I could have a Christmas cookie, or I can always tell when I eat sugar though. And if I eat too much, I don't feel good. So I don't do it, or I stop. And people are like, roll their eyes, and they're like, oh my God, I don't care. But you know what? I have people that come up to me at the mall or something and are like, and it took a long time for me to be able to go out by myself. I was terrified. I didn't know how to react in the social world. And people need to talk about that part of it too. Nothing prepared me to get sick with Lyme. Nothing prepared me to get better. And there's nothing out there. So if you include anything in your book that could help or just make people aware that being so terrifyingly ill, even though I know that I'm a better person now and that things are better, it was so frightening for me to go anywhere alone. I was like agoraphobic for a while. Even going to get the mail, I would have a panic attack. And then I'd go to Target by myself, and then back, I didn't go for anything. I'd just see if I could get there and back. But landmarks had changed. Like I told you, roads had changed. I didn't recognize where I was anymore. That was so scary. And if I had one person that stuck by me that said, come on, we're going to go out, that would have helped. My husband's working. He works from home. Thank you, God, because that's so wonderful. I'm probably the only one in the pandemic that was like, woohoo, my daughter came home from college. My husband's home. I had more company than I had in 10 years. So I was like, this is great. It was so funny. And I remember laughing at that. My therapist had said, you're ahead of the game.
Yes.
You are so ahead of the game, because people were like, I'm isolated, I'm alone. And I'm just like, I didn't say anything, but I was just like, if you only knew.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What an isolating illness, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It's like being a living, breathing zombie.
Yes, exactly. That's perfect.
Give of what happened to me too. You had a lot of similar symptoms, like the brain not working, and like I felt them here in my head.
Yeah. Yes.
I wish that I had pictures of what my brain looked like, because I know it was in there. It's gone now, but it's wild. But and I think you touch on something else that's very important to me, and just the integration back into being normal again.
Yeah.
This is something that I've struggled with a lot, and just
I'm still struggling. Yeah.
How do I adjust from going from full tilt, trying to save your life, survival mode, like just grasping literally to 1 minute to the next. Like I used to say to myself, like one step after the next, you can do it. Just like put one foot down after the next. Like it was so hard to even make myself walk.
Yeah. Oh, I could cry. I could absolutely cry right now just because hearing you say that makes me feel normal. But I looked for books to read. I looked for things out there that were like how to get back into life again. How do you become from a zombie to living again? You know, I didn't know how to do that. I was, and my social skills were rusty. And then when you have things that happen to your head, you doubt yourself a lot.
Yeah.
Like, can I carry on a conversation? You know, because before it was all the way back, you know, people would talk to me and I would be concentrating so hard on trying to remember everything they said, you know, and that puts pressure on you.
Yes. Yeah. But it's like, how do you function then as normal? And like, what is normal? Even what is even normal? You know, like this has permanently changed us and our course of life and how we are and what we eat and what we drink and what we put on our bodies and, you know, all these different things.
Everything. And so even makeup, when I put makeup on, I'm like, okay, what's in this? You know, it's like I try to do, you know, good stuff, you know, and I get up and do my whole, I love how you look. I love your outfits and your earrings and everything. I do that every single day. Nobody sees me at home but my husband, but I do it because I can.
That's right. You do it very well too. So you should.
But I mean, I couldn't do it for so long, you know, so like now I can do it, you know, and it's a victory just to be able to put clothes on, just to be able to say what earrings, it's like almost a dream come true, you know, but then, you know, but you're right. What you just said a few minutes ago about how we become a completely different person and then trying to absorb how we go from this point of being a zombie to back to be a live person again. And it's very difficult. I don't want to use the word damaged, but affected, highly affected by everything physically and emotionally that we've been through. And it's not just the one thing. It's not just the suffering and the pain. It's the denial by doctors, the denial by the government, by the CDC and the NIH and everybody else saying, you know, chronic Lyme doesn't exist. The conspiracy theories that are out there. I can't even wrap my head around any of that because I can't think that this happened on purpose somehow. I can't even fathom that somebody's responsible for this. But why isn't testing better? Why? And then every week we lose people in the Lyme community. It crushes me. I've lost personal friends that have died. Anytime anybody, last week, 2 people died. And it's like, I cry because it's just so sad. That's another thing. I'm a very feeling emotional person, but I don't let my emotions be too high, too low. I don't cry, like break down like I used to anymore because I know that I've got to keep, and it's not like I'm not feeling or anything. It's like I lost my mother, my father, my stepmother, and a very dear friend. The only one I had one friend, she owned her hair salon. She would come and do my hair at my house. And she would come and just lay on the couch and put my head on her lap and let me cry. And she just stroked me and say, it's going to be okay. And that's all we need when we're that sick, you know. She passed away. So I lost 4 people in like 8 months. It was a lot. And I never broke down. I was so sad. I was very close to my dad, not so much to my mom, very close to my stepmom. And I knew they were in a better place. I cried a little bit and then I miss them all the time, but I'm never going to let myself go down the rabbit hole again. I am not, you know, and it doesn't mean that I'm not feeling because I am. And it doesn't mean that I'm not empathetic because I really am. And I help people every day, but I'm not going to lose myself. The little things I would say to my husband, you're not romantic. You're not looking at me. You didn't compliment me today. Please, we're going to be married 38 years. He stayed with me through Lyme. We are good. We hit our niche. You know, everything's great. I don't sweat the small stuff anymore. You know, it's so funny. Every day, I used to have to make my bed every morning. And if I didn't make it, I would be freaked out. If like I was late and the alarm went off, I would freak all day long because my bed wasn't made. Now it's like I pull the covers up underneath. I have a nice comforter that's heavy on the top. So you can't tell that the sheets are a little bit rumpled under the bottom. And that's like my little secret. That's like my victory in the morning. It's like, heck, I'm not wasting my time on anything that's not necessary. I do my laundry. I don't like cooking anymore. I used to love to cook gourmet stuff and everything. And now it's like, oh, I don't want to do that now. And it's just my husband and I. So we'll get takeout from somewhere healthy, or, we'll cook together or something. But it's like, I don't sweat the small stuff anymore. It's like, just let it go. So we are reborn. We are totally different. Totally different people. If I do all this now, it's for me. It's not to say I'm so great. Look at all I did. Look at all, all the stuff I did, all the thankless things. And none of those people were there for me in the end. And I wish them no harm. There's a forgiveness for everybody.
Yes, there has to be.
It doesn't mean I want them in my life. Yeah, no negativity. I don't have room for that.
Yeah.
So if somebody doesn't bring joy to my life, joy is my favorite word. If somebody doesn't bring joy, it's like, no, I don't think so.
Exactly. We only have so much time, and that definitely impacts our soul and our spiritual welfare, how we are in physical being then because of those things. And it's very important to pay attention to that. And
But, I think there's something else that shines out of us, because I've seen it in people before. I've had people come up to me, like at the grocery store or at the mall, that have come up to me and said, I just want to tell you, you have this light that shines out of you. And I know you've heard it too. I know you probably have, because I can see it in you. And it's like recognizing another warrior. It's so corny, I know, but it's just like you see something and you think, wow, that person's been through something. And they have like this thing, because I've seen it in other people. I don't see it in myself, but other people have stopped me enough times where I'm like, I'm by myself. I'm not like bouncing off the walls, and they're like, wow, she's glowing. It's like, I don't know.
It's within you for sure.
Yeah. And I'm more quiet in retrospect now. I kind of think and I watch and I reflect. I don't react right away. It's like I'm more thoughtful and more present, and new enthusiasm for life for sure.
Yes. And I see that every day in your posts, and I love it. And that's I gravitate towards your energy. And I think it's like we have this life force ball within us. And if, you can stoke it with bad, or you can stoke it with good. And, it's going to pull you whichever direction you go. And I think when I both got into the really like negative stoked space, and we had to really like make
there's no way to get well. Yeah.
And now we're just burning. Right. And it's beautiful, and that's
it's like this explosion. Yeah.
You have to work at it, and it's hard, and it's really not a free ride. Like, you've got to put your back into it and really think about it.
Yeah. And that's a good point too, because I remember thinking I wasn't ready to get sick, and then I wasn't prepared. And then how do you prepare for that? And then everybody leaving, I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know how to deal with that. And then getting better, and then scary world. The thing that surprised me the most is I am better. I don't have my act together. I'm always in the process. So I'm not 100%. I'm still healing and still learning, and I'm going to probably be learning forever, but that people don't necessarily like positivity sometimes. I get a lot of grief. People saying, oh, she's too positive. I'm like, you know what? You didn't like it when I was sick. You didn't like it when it's just okay. Okay. Just don't follow me anymore. It's fine.
That's right.
People, it doesn't bother me at all anymore. And I don't wish those people any harm. I think you didn't walk in my shoes, so you don't know what I've been through. Before, it's like people that I think, I never said why me, but I've been like, God, I bet through a lot of stuff. And I only told you like a tip of the iceberg. I've had 6 bowel blockages. I've been in the hospital for each one of those. And those are painful. Those are like life-threatening. You fall to the floor because of all the surgeries. I had scar tissue, horrible. And they intubate you, and you're in the hospital for a week with no food or water, just IV. And you have to wait. And it's excruciating. So, I mean, I've been through the ringer physically. Nothing like Lyme, nothing like the Lyme, nothing. And you come out and you're just like, the people that have not been through things in their life they just seem so much more shallow, not that like it's a bad thing, but they seem unaware, I guess. They just don't appreciate or feel the depth of things. I'm not saying like I put them down for that, but I used to think, oh, why am I going through this? Because every difficult situation came with a gift and a lesson. And it's like, I just feel like I'm so overwhelmed with the goodness and I know, you know what I mean. It's just I'm alive.
That's right.
It doesn't matter. I'm going to my husband this morning, like my knee hurts. Oh, my back hurts, but I'm alive. And I said, that puts it all back in perspective again. And then, it's funny because he was trying to procrastinate working out the other day, and we have a resistance machine, and it's got a little iPad there with the exercises on it, but it's also got other pictures and stuff on it. So memories came up, and he said he hit it. And he's like, I forget how sick you really were. And I had a home healthcare nurse when I was on the IV Recephin that came every week, and he would pray with me. And he was the nicest guy. Well, we got back in touch with each other last year. It was after Lyme week, our Lyme month in May. And I had posted something, and I had my pick line. He was like, I recognize that arm. And then we got back in touch through that. It was so funny.
Cool.
But he said to me, I didn't think you were going to make it. And for a nurse to tell me that, he said, I really thought you were going to die. And that terrified me. It made me like, wow. Because you wonder, was I really as bad? It was bad. I remember herxing so bad at one time that I was like an animal on the floor crawling under. It hurt. Everything. My skin hurt. It hurt to have clothes on. Anything that touched me, sounds, I was so sick. And I remember just feeling like I wanted to peel my skin off. I remember crawling around on the floor, and my husband said, I don't know why they're calling exorcists and have an exorcism done or call the doctor. I exhausted myself, and then I fell asleep on my hands and knees under our coffee table, and he just left me there and covered me with a blanket because he didn't know what to do. It was bad. And then, you're trying to counsel these poor people through Lyme, and you're like, okay, well, then what other disease? Okay, you got to find your own doctor, you got to pay for your own treatment. Then you got to get a lot sicker before you get better, because, your body can't deal with the herxing. I hurt so many times. I did the Alka-Seltzer Gold with all that stuff, and it helped. But I mean, man, I don't know anything even remotely like this experience.
And that's a really powerful statement, given your perspective of how much else you've gone through. Like, I've had some other things with my cervix and stuff, but not anything in comparison, I think, to what you've gone through. And I mean, I thought it was one of the hardest things. I was in an abusive relationship. I've done this, done that.
Yeah.
Healing, or even just existing in the space of not knowing what was wrong for so long.
Yeah.
Like that in of itself deserves an award.
Yeah, it took me 3 years for diagnosis. And by then I was so sick. So that's a difference between Lyme and chronic Lyme. And I don't remember getting bit by a tick. I had no rash. But then when they're poppy seed size, it could be between your toes. It could be in your scalp. It could be behind your ear. I mean, how would you know? It's terrifying. And now they can live through the winter, and there's a super tick out there, and it's like, geez. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You couldn't pay me $1 million to walk through a field. No
way. I agree with you.
I honestly, God, people are like, I'm going camping, and I'm like, watch out for ticks. It's just like, I don't care if people say she's crazy. I don't care. It's like the people I love, I'm like, please,
take it seriously, because it's horrible. And you and I see people die. People die.
Yeah.
It's not really communicated effectively. I think you're like, oh, take some antibiotics and you'll be better. Or, oh, Lyme, or, oh, like you said earlier, it's like, oh, my uncle had it, or so-and-so had it, and they took one thing of it, and they're completely fine. I had family members who said the same thing to me, like, oh, well, my mom had it, and she took antibiotics, and she was, why are you doing all this to yourself?
Yep.
Do you think I want to do this for fun? You think I want to not eat gluten, dairy, sugar, drink alcohol, caffeine, eggs, pork? I want this to myself? No.
Why? And for attention, I mean, who's saying you do that? Nobody. It affects every detail of our lives. And it's so incredibly overwhelming. And every time one of those Lyme warriors die, I think that could have been me. Like the woman that died last week, it's like she died having a Lyme seizure right after the seizure. And I thought that could have been me. That could have been me. There's always that easily.
That's another part of the emotional thing. Like not only just like adjusting to being a normal person, but also like the survivor's guilt is real, right? Like, I mean, why do I get better? Or why am I here and somebody else is stuck where they were and they just keep going and never getting better? And
and I had a friend that she had Lyme. We met through one of the Lyme groups. We talked every single day, loved her. And then she got breast cancer and was fighting breast cancer and Lyme. And she passed away right after Thanksgiving. And it just crushed me. I just miss her so much. And every day there's always like a little sign of something that I'll see that I know that she's watching over me, but it just, how could you possibly fight cancer with Lyme disease? It just, I couldn't even fight Lyme disease. And then the co-infections, it's just, and then people that get sick and that ask you, well, what do I do? How do I get better? And you're thinking, oh my gosh, there's a billion gajillion. I don't even, I know I didn't even say everything. I was trying to rack my brain thinking of supplements and all of this stuff that you do to get better. And I mean, who wants a PICC line into their heart, and hooked up twice a day? I tried IVIG treatments for 2 years, and that's 6 hours a day, getting blood, clean white blood cells from people that donate and having that infused into your body. I mean, I did everything I could possibly think of. And then I was swindled. I was lied to. I was ridiculed. And then to tell them insurance doesn't pay for any of it.
I know.
It's so sad. It's so sad. It's just, something's got to be done. And I think what you're doing is very admirable because you need to educate people.
Yes.
This is so easy for me to talk about because I'm so passionate about this. People need help and they need, and how I met the woman that passed away that I just told you about, my friend Connie. I wrote in one of the Lyme groups, I wish that we had a haven for Lymies to go to just to be loved, not judged, not fixed, not just, you just have this overwhelming need just to be held, just to be loved. Because when you're at your worst and you're dying, which we were all dying, it is the comfort of having another human being close to you. And that's all you want. That's all that matters. Correct. No one has to speak. They don't have to say anything, just to come together in compassion. I thought that's what people with Lyme disease need the most. And that's a time when everybody walks out. Family. I didn't have any other family. I had my husband and my daughter. My son is grown and he was out of the house. So to care for me, that's all I had. I had no one else. And my little puppy who stuck by me, and was my lifesaver. She's my little angel, So yeah, it's so hard, and I feel for people that, frustrating thing. Let me just rant for a second. So like I'll tell somebody, well, I had to clean my diet up, gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, mostly organic, blah, 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 blah. Now I'll eat some chicken and every once in a while and salmon. And then they're like, I'm not changing my diet. And then you're like, okay. So this woman last year, it was during May, and somebody referred her to me. I don't know what. She said, what do? I get bit by a tick. I told her what to do. She got tested. I was like, you need to be on antibiotics. You need to be on doxy at least this long, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, big pause. And I had spent hours with this woman and I was doing everything I could to help her. And she goes, wait a minute. I'm not taking antibiotics that long. I can't lay in the sun.
Oh no.
And I was like, I didn't even have words. I said, okay, I have to go now. Bye. Like,
oh no.
It was like life, death. And I'm trying to prevent anything like this happening. And of course I don't tell people that I'm trying to help, I almost died, I don't tell them the whole ugly story of how bad it really is, but it's bad. And so I'm trying to help. And she's like, but I can't lay in the sun if I take antibiotics. I'm not doing that. I'm like, okay, bye. It's
I'll
like
see you in a couple of years when you're like, why am I not better? And I still feel like good. Yeah.
So hard. So hard.
Yeah, it is. Because I think I think part of it is driven by society in terms of like, oh, you take a pill and you're supposed to get
you're
better.
frozen.
Oops.
Oh, you're back.
Sure. Oh,
yep.
Okay. But yeah, it's like society just gives us this idea that we're supposed to take a pill and get better. And then, but most people want clearly, and especially when you're not feeling well, like you just want to take something fast to feel better. Yeah. But then when you start to go into all the different things that you really probably got to do to support yourself and actually get better, they don't want it. And I get it. I didn't want it either.
Oh, me either. Me either.
You're going to have to take it or you're just probably not going to get better, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then some people just complain and complain and complain, and they don't want to do anything to get better. And that's frustrating too. But, you try to help them as much as you can. And then when they finally get to that point, they'll come back and then that they realize, and that's coming full circle with that. But yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard. And I mean, I wonder if things will change in our lifetime. I hope so, but I don't know. There's so much that needs to be done. And it scares me.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like it's just, talk about gateway things. Like, I just feel like it leads to so many other health problems. And what you're saying is like, I've thought about this too. It's like, do you think that we get conditioned to think that sickness is normal? And so how many people have a doctor that's telling them like, oh, that's normal for your age, accept that that's how you're going to feel for the rest of your life. But in actuality, they have something like Lyme disease. Yeah. And so that's just such injustice in a way, because
especially as women. Yeah, as women too, because I was just treated so horribly. It was by a majority of the doctors and specialists. I saw 62 doctors. Really? I saved every card of every naturopath, every kind of specialist, every kind of doctor, every single person. And then I counted them one day and I was like, no, I counted them 3 times. And I was like, whoa.
That's crazy.
And 2 helped, my family practitioner, and then the doctor in Fort Lauderdale, and he's retired now. So, and the only reason he treated is because his wife had it, and he knew as an infectious disease doctor. My daughter's boyfriend is in med school right now. And I asked him, how much have you gotten on Lyme disease? He said 15 minutes in one class, and they breezed over it.
That's what my dad said. He's like, I'm telling you, honey, in medical school, we spent like an hour talking about it one day and that was it. And we just kept right on going. Yeah. And I contacted one of the places that I went to try to figure out what was wrong with me. Yeah. That told me I had narcolepsy. And I can see, I've since seen studies where they show that the brain patterns mimic narcolepsy. So they weren't totally far off base. Right. But I started talking to him and the practice director, and he studied in New York, and he's like, yeah, I kind of heard about it, but I really don't quite understand. And I was like, oh my God. And he talks to thousands of people who are tired, because that was the other thing. I thought maybe I had apnea because I just couldn't figure out what the fatigue situation was.
The fatigue was so overwhelming.
Horrifying. I'm a doer like you. And so to have that crippling fatigue that made me, and the
batteries were taken out. Like I said, the Energizer Bunny, remove the batteries, and then jump on the bunny a bunch of times. And then maybe get through the disposal, run it over with the car a couple times. It's like, and you know what? I was no stranger to pain. Nothing came close to the suffering. It is such a deep, painful. You've got nerve pain. I mean, it's like every kind of pain, it's like everything at once. You're nauseous, you're vomiting, you've got migraines. I get migraines still now. And sorry. My ringer on my phone is Outlander. I love Outlander. Anyway, it's crazy that I just can't even fathom how painful it was. It's like so multisystemic. I mean, there wasn't a part of my body it didn't touch. My vision, I couldn't see. I had floaters ringing in the ears. Did you have that?
No, thankfully.
Oh, like
I started to lose my hearing in my last year.
I believe it.
Yeah, I didn't really have ringing, thankfully.
Buzzing. It was like constant vibration. Mm-hmm. I still don't sleep with my phone anywhere near me. It's in the living room. I plug it in at night and I don't have anything, try to stay away from stuff. I mean, you try to do so many things. It's so, yeah, it's so hard. I was wearing crystals. I was trying
I was brushing my teeth on tin foil to dissipate
yes.
magnetic frequencies.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. It's like, geez. Yeah, everything. It's just terrifying. And I know people that I met back when I first went to that clinic that are still sick, that have been fighting for 30 years. I don't know how they're still alive. I really don't. I have one friend that's been to 8 clinics and she can barely eat. She can't move. They can't put any more PICC lines in. She said ports. She said PICC lines. She's been treated with every single thing. And then they come out with ozone therapy and then all this crazy stuff, and not that it's crazy, but all of these other things. I mean, I know there's other ways to treat now. And have you heard about the urine therapy?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that actually. And it's funny.
I would have tried it. I would have done anything.
Well, funny is like back when I went to McGill University, they had published something in their medical journal about drinking urine. And I tried it one time because they were like, your morning urine is the best.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, it was the worst tasting thing ever. And I never tried it again since, but that always stuck with me.
Well, you're supposed to mix it in juice, I think. Now they say.
I drank it straight. And so, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
And then I just read in one of my Ayurvedic textbooks, it was talking about the benefits of drinking urine. And I was like, wow, this is wild because that's what that guy did.
Yeah. Well, there's a woman that's on in one of the Facebook groups, and her son went to Germany to try to get better.
I follow them on Facebook.
Yeah, me too. And he remarkable.
Yeah,
I mean, he was skin and bones. He looked so amazingly healthy. And I'm so happy for her, because it worked for them. I don't know how. I don't know the scientific part of it, but I mean, I've read enough things out there to know that it's out there. In the worst of my Lyme, if somebody would have told me this can help, I would have tried anything. There's nothing that I would not have tried.
You bet you.
I remember eating this mud stuff. Somebody told me was good. And then through I don't even know what it was, some kind of earthy stuff. I don't know. It was dirt. I was eating dirt. I was trying to.
I read a book called that, Eat Dirt.
Eat Dirt.
By Dr. Joe Ash, I think is his name, but that's a fantastic book. And, it just talks about like repopulating your gut biome with dirt and the bacteria and how
I was during the leaky gut stuff. I was drinking the, oh God, what kind of milk that's supposed to help the gut? I can't remember what it was. Some kind of milk I had to send for, and it came. And I mean, it was like so many things, I think of how desperate we are.
Well, and sometimes I feel like now that I've been healthy for so long again, like I almost forget sometimes how sick I was. Or like it almost feels like a past life.
It happened to another person or something. That's how I feel.
Okay.
Oh, you're frozen again.
Whoops. Sorry, I don't know if my internet's going in and out.
No, I'm sure it's mine. I'm sure it's mine.
I don't know. I think it might be on my end too, but I'm kind of glad to hear like that's not just me, because it does feel like a completely different person that it happened to, or like I forget, and I'll read past journals and I'm like,
yes, I kept journals too. Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that happening to me. Like, oh my God, I was so sick. My poor body, like my poor self, like, oh.
I know. And I have journal pages where I was like ripping and tear stains all over and boogers and everything else, and just writing one word like help. It's so, I don't even know how to, it was bad. It was really, really, I remember thinking, how could hell be worse than this? Because this is like the worst thing I could ever imagine. And the suffering was 24/7. It never stopped. The pain never stopped. Yeah. It was exhausting. I had rage. I was breaking things. It was like I was possessed by demons. It was like crazy things. The water in the shower hurt hitting my body. I remember just crying because it hurt. so bad. My hair hurt when I had hair. When I had no hair, my scalp hurt. It was like my eyes were dry. I couldn't breathe. I had air hunger, gasping for breath, passing up when you stand out, when you stand up, the seizures, the shaking, the twitching, it just is so, something's got to be done. And more people are getting sick. I don't know what we do to make this. I don't know. I feel like I should be doing more, and I don't know. It's like, there's only so much you can do. And the government and that, it's like, I don't understand why the tests aren't testing for what they need to test for to show. And then you get into all the conspiracy stuff again. I heard somebody said that if insurance ever had to pay, if they recognized it as a real disease, and they have to pay all the people that paid out of pocket, and they could never afford that. And that's why they'll continue to deny.
That's what I've thought about, is that it would completely break them.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what it is. And then the biological warfare part of it, there were always ticks in the world. Why in the 70s, did it start being more prevalent or related? Yeah. I tried to read.
I've also read things about studies that just show exponentially the amount of Lyme that's found in the environment could not have naturally manifested itself. Like, it had to have been aided by.
Yep. Me too. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I read that too. I tried to read Bitten, and I got through like the first 3 chapters, and my mind could not comprehend. And there was too much proof in there. There was too much stuff that showed proof, and no one did anything. It's just like, geez.
Yep. That's the thing, that's like, you've got to find a good balance, I think, between getting sucked into that space and just being like, put up your own wall, and it doesn't matter, and insulate yourself, and just know that you're going to heal, and it doesn't matter about this other stuff. Because if I get stuck there, I can get so mad, and then
that's not good for you.
Healing.
Nope.
Correct.
Yeah. And I say all the time, I'm not going down the rabbit hole again. So if it means not being like an emotional mess every day, not having, I don't sweat the small stuff anymore. I just am more mindful and listening to my body. I listen. If I need to I had a down day yesterday. I just stayed on the couch, and I just needed time. The weather changed again. We had rain, and I was achy, and 30-degree temperature fluctuations kill me. And the summers here, the humidity is really not good for me. It just, it hurts. So I always feel better when I'm up in Pennsylvania or something. Now, I've never spent a whole winter. But we were up there at Thanksgiving, and I loved it. I was like feeling so good. I had the inflammation was way down. I felt so good. I had energy. Yeah.
So the cold, you feel like the cooler helped.
Yeah.
The exact opposite. I'm like, get me the heck out of here. I've got Raynaud's syndrome. And so I lose circulation in my fingers, and it's incredibly painful. And I want to punch people in the head because it hurts so bad. And so I'm like, I just need to be as warm as possible. Where's the hottest place I can go? So Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Florida's hot. And and the summers are brutal, though. I tell people up north, it's like the snow days. If you're down here in August and September, it's like over 100 degrees and 100% humidity. And it's like, it's 85 degrees when you go out to get, out in the morning, take the dog out. It's like burning hot already. And that's like, ugh, I don't like it.
Yeah. There's, I guess, a point when it's like almost too much, but I practice hot yoga, so you're like,
you used to that.
Put me on the hot rock outside, I'll be just fine.
Exactly, like a big salamander. It's like fine, soaking it all up. But it's just like, I'm happy to be here. I can't believe that I made it, and that gets me. But that sense of positivity and having to believe and have faith that you're going to get better when nothing is changing was the hardest thing I've ever faced in my whole life, because everything was saying no. You're going to die. Yes. And I was saying, no, I'm going to live. I'm well, and then talking health and well-being into every part of my body. And then after I watched the Heal documentary, I'm like, look, there's science to this.
Correct.
But there really is.
Yes.
And I'm proof. I'm living proof. I would not be here if I did not believe it. It's imperative. It's as imperative as any treatment, as any supplement, as anything that you do. You have to have that sense of positivity to get better, or there's no chance,
Correct. We're both the same that way. Like,
it's bitter or better, victor or victim, it's like, you choose, but you gotta believe. How did you get better?
Much the same way. Just I kind of put blinders on and put my nose to the grindstone and made up my mind that I was going to get better.
Yep.
And just went inside a lot and did a lot of spiritual healing and a lot of things that were uncomfortable and different and new, and learned as much as I could and just asked a lot of questions and did a lot of research and a lot of praying like you, a lot of meditation. I can say that I had specific moments where I was like, I'm healing. Like I knew things would happen and I'd see signs and different things that would happen to me that I was like, I am getting better. But it was hard and it felt like standing in concrete for a while and just to get the wheels going. And once you start to go, like I picture it more of like layers of static almost, that we've got all these layers of static going on in our being. Like you grab one and you pull it out. And so it's like a little less staticky and then you have another and you
feel more on. So
it becomes smooth again. And that goes along with the inner peace.
Yes.
Sense of security, like everything, it just all becomes smooth then. But you have to really figure out how to tease out those layers of static. And each thing we learn about, each new healing thing, every bit helped.
And it's hard work. Like you said, it is hard. It is really hard. It's not magical. It's not all of a sudden. It is continually working on it. And that did it. Yeah.
And that's what I sometimes struggle when people ask me, like, I don't know if I should tell them that it was that hard, or because I'm like,
I know you
it's
don't
not really for me to decide. Maybe theirs is going to be like an instant miraculous healing. Like, I don't know. I'm not God. But I'm going to share with them my experience. And I get scared sometimes. I'm like, I don't want to give them that pre-notion that it's got to be like that. Because, again, it really doesn't. But I feel like from all the people that I've talked to, all of us that have gotten better, it's been really hard. And it's been a lot like what you and I are explaining, especially when it's chronic and it's gone so long. Like it takes the will of God, act of God to get it out of us. And I often picture like just hitting it from every side with a sledgehammer to like break it open and get it out, because it's not just one thing. It's not one, like just, you got to do everything.
And then you get one thing out of the way and there's another thing. And it's like, it's crazy. It is. I'm so proud of us.
Me too.
I really am. To be able to smile and laugh again, to be able to just feel like I can. When I get nervous about things now, I think I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be a part of life again. I deserve to spread goodness and kindness and love out there. And I have a lot of love to give. And there's a lot of people that are hurting out there, and we can help the people that want to be helped, I guess. And, when people ask me, I say, this was my journey and this is what I had to do to get better. And I tell them, and, I had to embrace positivity and have faith even when nothing, and I don't put God into it because people's own religious beliefs or whatever they are, but I just tell them, I had to believe in the face of nothing changing. I had to believe in myself that I would get well. Even when my every inch of my body was screaming, I had to just calm it and believe. I remember somebody had given me this cross that I could hold and I was supposed to like grab onto it. I remember I had the imprint in my hand because I clutched that thing. And I remember just praying so hard. I was like chanting with my eyes squished shut. I probably looked like I was totally a crazy person, on the couch. I had little tufts of hair sticking out where my hair had fallen out. I chanting stuff with this thing in my hand, and just you do whatever you have to do to survive.
That's right.
And I'm proud of that person. I'm proud of that person. I really am. And I think what my body's been through, I'll be in the shower and I'll be like, oh my God, another vein or cellulite. And I'm like, those legs kept me up. I'm standing in the shower and nobody's holding me in here now. So, when I stop and I look at the things that I'm so proud of how far I've come and how far you've come, and anybody that's tried to battle this thing and gotten to the other side of it. And then then somebody will say, well, it's not cured. It's in remission. It's still in your body. And I'm like, not in my body. I'm like, nope.
You believe what you want. I'll believe what I want. Thanks.
And that makes all the difference. To me, it does anyway. It's like, no, I'm going to live. That's it.
I'm healed. Like, I'm good. Thank you. I'm not getting sick again. I'm not going back again. Like that's impossible.
But even with all the other stuff I've been through, like the ovarian cancer and the cervical cancer, I mean, it could have easily lost my life. With the brain tumor, I could have lost my life. I never felt this strength to survive and live. It's like I got through each of those things, and they changed me and they made me better, but nothing like this, nothing. It doesn't even come close. It doesn't even come close. This was the fight of my life. And I am so happy to have just to have the peace, just to have peace in my heart is such a gift. Just to be able to breathe is a gift. It's like all the little things that nobody else gets that I could tell you. I couldn't tell anybody else because they would be looking at me like, you're happy you're breathing. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm high on life. Thanks. Like, I'm just so grateful to be alive. You have no idea.
And some days are really tough. And some days I still get like, kind of like, ugh, what am I doing? And then I'm like, nope, I do all the positive affirmations. I'm strong. I'm beautiful. I can overcome anything. I've got this, talking myself into these things and then appreciating where I am from where I came from. And that changes everything. It's not simple. It's hard work. And I have to, I'm not happy every single day, but I get there and I try to do the best I can. And then the next day I start all over again. So, you have to give yourself grace. And I've learned that too. And that's something I never did before. I was unrelenting with myself. I had to be perfect all the time. I had to do everything really great, not good, not okay, but over and above. Mm-hmm. When I was a teacher, all my evaluations were exceeds expectations. For every year I taught, it was like, I never had anything but exceeds expectations on any evaluations. And it was like, it's okay.
Because it's almost the death of you. It's like, yeah, great. I'm like,
so that's interesting. And the things that people admired the most to me were the things that almost killed me. I want to be as organized as you. I would have all my outfits laid out for the week, the whole outfit, accessories, purse, shoes for a week. And then why? It was like, sometimes for 2 weeks.
Oh my.
Which is ridiculous. Stupid. No, I was like, why did I do that? And then I don't know, it's just like, it was never enough. And now it's like, no, not doing that anymore. Mm-mm.
Yeah, but it's like, look how much you've learned, and like that's the thing to be proud of. And I'm glad that you're embracing that. And that's why I kind of like gravitate towards you. It's just you're just very grateful. You understand it. You get it. You have the attitude of gratitude because you've been into the darkest place of hell on earth that you can possibly go, which is again what I think Lyme disease is. It's like the deepest, darkest hole of hell you can fall into.
Yep.
And I often will think like, we don't need guns and bombs. You just drop chicks on people and they're too dumb, tired, and stupid to even remember what they're fighting for. Like, it's hard to even just take care of yourself and to remember to breathe, let alone worry anything else when you're in that state. And to get out of it is next to impossible. And so think about like truly like the magnitude of us here and talking with each other. Yeah, we both found our way through that dark place and are now just like hopefully I know you are, and I think I get told enough like beacons of light for others and shine the way out of the darkness. And
and if you can give hope to one person, then you know what, our job is done, because that person, it's funny because my friend that told me that she thought I had Lyme, and this stayed with me, and I hope it stays with you too. She said she got to heaven and she said, I don't think I did enough. And he said, turn around. And she turned around and there was this long trail of people. And then like the branches on a tree, more people came out and more people came out like branches, and huge amounts. He's like, you saved that person saved that person, that person saved that person. And you don't realize the effect that you have. So, that's all we can hope, right? We can try to make things better. We can't change the government. I wish we could. We can't change the medical community. We can't change the testing. So the best thing we can do is just help other people navigate and then have hope, And if you can just spread that little bit of hope, or just say just a tiny little speck of believing, then that's all you need to start.
That's correct.
Yeah,
absolutely correct. And that's all it really does take for some people. And that is, again, the intent with these interviews, with this book, is to give people that hope and to help them to latch onto something. Because when I was so sick, like, that's all I really wanted was I'd gravitate to stories about people that I'd catch every now and again that got better.
Yeah, me too.
Good. Like Dr. Rawls, Bill Rawls. He got better. It took him 10 years or whatever, but he got better.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Did you pick a name for your book?
Well, I'm thinking about doing the silver lining.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
Yeah. I think that's always been kind of on the back of my head. I was wanting to do a podcast called The Silver Liming a couple years ago, and I just never quite got there. So
I love it. I love it. I really love it, because it's there is a silver lining when we come through. So that's so applicable. I love that. And I've seen every play on the Lyme word, but not that.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm excited.
I love it.
I'm really excited.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You should be. If I can help you in any possible way.
Well, this has been fantastic. And I love talking to you, and your energy is just very solid and whole and balanced and beautiful. And it is a pleasure to know you, and that God has put us in the same place, because I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for Lyme, you know? And like, I look forward to your posts, and I'm grateful to see you smiling.
It's the amazing, and the connections that immediately when you've met another kindred spirit, that's somebody that thinks the same way that you do, that embraces positivity. And I just saw it in you. I really did. And that just made me so excited. I'm not alone,
Right. That's right. You're not at all.
Yeah.
We have each other for sure. And I see behind your head now that says joy.
Yeah, it does. That's my favorite word.
I got it. Because I could just see the J for a while. And I was like,
yeah, there it is. A little wreath in the middle. My head. It's like my head in a J and
exactly. Every now and again, I see the Y kind of poking out. I'm like, I got it.
What is that? Yeah, I'm in my little craft room. So there's a bunch of stuff all around me. It's my happy place. Yeah, I can do this again, It's like so much fun. And have other people to celebrate you and how far you've come. That's a thing that you don't get. You get better, and then you're like, nobody understands but another Lyme person. It's like, that's why that lunch, we ordered lunch, the food sat there, and we were just looking at each other like with these big puppy dog eyes. It was just like, how do you even eat? We're holding each other's hands. It was so incredible, because I don't think I had the chance to talk to another human being right in front of me that went through the same struggles and went through the war and won,
Yeah. Well, good job.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah,
we did it. Yep. Well, if I can help in any other way, just let me know.
Most definitely.
I'm so excited. Yeah. Reach out anytime. And I hope I gave you enough information.
A lot. And I'm very thankful for it, because it's a very beautiful story, and I'm excited to share it. So thank you for gifting it to me to do so.
Absolutely. Anything that could help anybody else, I'm all for, I really am. And that's all we can do, keep doing what you're doing, because it's making a difference. Just seeing your face makes me smile every time I see it. So I'm like, oh my God.
That's how I feel about you. That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, take care.
You too. Thank you so much.
And keep me posted. And if you need anything, just holler.
I will. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.